Hello everyone and welcome to Lost in the Reel. Although I was trying to get my top 10 films of 2021 out by the beginning of the year, I had to make sure that I saw every film that I wanted to see, as well as rewatch every movie in my top 10 to make 100% sure that these were the right choices. 2021, in my opinion, was an incredible year for entertainment, despite the continuing effects of COVID on the industry. And while there were a lot of duds, make sure to check out my list of worst films of the year, there were some truly exceptional motion pictures that I am so excited to share with all of you today. And remember, these are just my own personal favorites of the year. This is most certainly not the right list, but it is mine. Out of the 209 new releases I saw in 2021, these 10 picks represent the movies that rocked me to my core, that made me laugh and cry and cheer, that showcased masterclass performances, visual delights, and poignant writing. But most of all, every single one of these films made me feel something. Whether it was heartbreak or melancholy, glee or ecstasy, pure terror or even a little bit of cringe. Whatever these movies did make me feel, when their credits rolled, I was profoundly changed by the experience. So without further ado, my top 10 films of 2021. Before I get started on my top 10, I must throw out a few honorable mentions because I just can't help myself, and I love these movies just too damn much to not share them with you. First off, I have Broadcast Signal Intrusion, one of the most eerie and downright confusing movies of 2021, about a video editor caught up in a Max Headroom type conspiracy. This one is the definition of a mindfuck. I also cannot leave off A Quiet Place Part 2, which didn't necessarily hit the heights of the original, but expanded this world in such a satisfying way, and definitely cemented John Krasinski as one of the most exciting directors of our time. Then there's Mads Mikkelsen in the dark comedy / action thriller / heartbreaking parable, Riders of Justice. While its humor might be off-putting for stateside audiences, this movie really packs a punch and delivers a plethora of surprises. There's also Come True, a movie about waking nightmares that some thought was an absolute nightmare after its confounding conclusion, but this movie is such an original and exciting new vision of terror. I really wish more movies took chances like Come True. Then there's the horribly underrated romantic drama Little Fish, starring an incomparable Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell, who had the best chemistry of any on-screen couple last year. Little Fish's plot about a virus that lays waste to people's memories might have been a little too on the nose during the pandemic era, but it is still a profoundly moving and heart-wrenching experience all the same. And last, but definitely not least, we have Tick, Tick, Boom, which pained me to leave off of my top 10, but this musical movie directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda about the famed writer and composer of Rent, Jonathan Larson's life, is just so touching and resonant, and it has one of the finest performances of the year from Andrew Garfield. Okay, now let's start off the top 10 with an entry that comes to us via a streaming service known for their lack of quality, and which is covered extensively by my dear friend Joe from Geeky Hijinks, Shudder. But every once in a while, Shudder provides a hidden gem, and I think this one is truly special. My number 10 film of 2021 is Vicious Fun. This horror comedy about a film journalist who gets stuck in a serial killer's anonymous meeting and has to fight for his life is not just an homage to the genre, but also stands on its own as a, well, viciously fun fright fest. While leading actor Evan Marsh didn't impress me right off the bat, he slowly slips into the role of this bumbling geek turned serial killer hunter so well. And he is complemented wonderfully by actress Amber Goldfarb, who is such a badass and creates a genuinely iconic character in Carrie. The filmmaker's love for the horror genre shines in every moment of vicious fun, which has some outrageous action scenes, fantastic practical gore effects, a delightfully on-the-nose 80s synth score, and hilarious in-jokes that keeps the laughter coming throughout the entire runtime. If there's one film this year that I will rewatch the most, it is definitely Vicious Fun. My number 9 is a little film written and directed by that one guy who played Eric from Twilight, Justin Chon, and it is called Blue Bayou. While other movies have affected me more on a mental and psychological level this year, no other film was able to impact me as emotionally as Blue Bayou. Following a Korean-American man who was raised in Louisiana and tries his best to work hard for his new family, but ultimately falls prey to the ghosts of his past and the threat of being deported, this movie is like a continued gut punch that left me a blubbering mess of tears. I'm not here to say that Blue Bayou is perfect by any means. There are some narrative and filmmaking issues that are definitely apparent, but this little hidden gem affected me in a very impactful way. Seeing the deportation process pan out like this with its lack of empathy of human life angered and frustrated me like no other. But this movie is also so full of hope for the human spirit as well. Blue Bayou is a total knockout, and I cannot wait to see what Justin Chon does next. Next up, my number 8 is James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, my own personal favorite superhero movie of 2021. Seeing this cast of ridiculous anti-heroes battle it out with a giant starfish was just the icing on the cake of a film filled with originality and imagination. Allowing Gunn to have full creative control would have normally scared me, as some movies this year would have benefited greatly from reining their directors in a bit, but although some might disagree, I think The Suicide Squad really shines because of its singular vision. This is balls to the wall, frenetic filmmaking that takes no prisoners and throws in everything and the kitchen sink. And in this film's case, that delighted me in so many ways. The cast is uniformly excellent, with new emerging players like the Polka Dot Man, Ratcatcher 2, Peacemaker, and Bloodsport just capturing my heart, as well as returning players like Harley Quinn and Rick Flag getting much more impactful screen time than in their first outing. This movie left me with such an adrenaline rush and in a fanboy haze that I just had to keep going back for more. Here's hoping that despite a lackluster box office return, that James Gunn will be given the chance for more time with the entire Suicide Squad after his time with Peacemaker. My number 7 is a movie that has stuck with me ever since its release near the beginning of the year, and that movie is The Mitchells vs. the Machines. As far as animation goes, we got a few Disney standouts in Luca and Encanto, and a fantastic adult fantasy with Cryptozoo, but in my opinion, the best of the best is The Mitchells vs. the Machines. And who would have thunk it? After being thrown around in development hell with Sony under a different name, the bland and nondescript Connected, and then being sold to Netflix, I really had no hope for this movie. But count me shocked out of my mind when I had the biggest smile on my face during the duration of this film. Not only does its truly original and striking animation make it something special, but this movie really wears its heart on its sleeve, and its exuberant humor and energy leave a lasting impression. And with Katie, our lead heroine, who is perfectly voiced by Abby Jacobson, I really connected with her on such a deeply personal level. Being a struggling content creator, trying to follow my dreams, sometimes feeling like an outcast, not just in society, but also within my own family. The Mitchells vs. the Machines, as well as Into the Spider-Verse, has really cemented Sony Animation as the most exciting emerging studio in the field. My number 6 favorite film of 2021 is The Power of the Dog. Now I know this has received mixed reviews from audiences, but hear me out on this one. During my first viewing of this film, as I was watching, I left a note on my pad that said, I understand why the critics love this, it's beautifully acted and shot, but it's leaving me feel cold, and god is it dull. But then all of a sudden when The Power of the Dog came to a close, and I experienced its shocking and melancholic ending, my mind started to change. Although I still didn't love the movie, I sat there with so many different conflicting feelings. So I decided to watch it again. And during that immediate rewatch, I fell head over heels for Jane Campion's masterwork. The Power of the Dog is a film that is brimming with intricate details and flourishes that constantly reward you upon further inspection. And make sure to check out my ending explain video where I dive into all of these things. Though I still understand audiences' initial reactions, one can only hope that they take the time to let the film soak over them on a revisit. My number 5 choice is another film I had to rewatch multiple times to fully understand its grasp, and that is Michael Sarnowski's Pig. One of the main reasons I decided I had to come back to this film and experience it again is just how taken aback I was by it on my first viewing. I initially thought I was getting myself into another Crazy Cage movie, but this time it was a John Wick ripoff with a pig instead of a dog, but boy could I have not been more wrong about that. Pig is a powerful and riveting fable about a famous chef in Portland who must confront the ghosts of his past. And Nicolas Cage is the best he has been in years in this movie, doing away with his maniacal antics and instead going for an aching, quietly dynamic and heartbreaking performance. He absolutely blew me away, and I think it would be a crime not to reward him with an Oscar nomination this year. All in all, this is just one of those movies that sticks with you long after it's over, allowing you to ruminate in its simple yet altogether grand scope of purpose. Next up is my number 4, and this one was incredibly divisive, but that is Netflix's and Jay Blakeson's I Care a Lot. Talk about a movie with an anti-hero. Many audiences were unwilling to look past the fact that our lead in this film, Marla Grayson, was a downright despicable and deplorable human being. All I could do was revel in Rosamund Pike chewing the hell out of the scenery whilst taking advantage of the elderly. I know that's dark, but it is what it is. I understand why viewers just could not get past the bad behavior, but I personally find it fascinating to get a bird's eye view of awful people doing terrible things that I would never think of doing, wrapped up in a character study of why they do what they do. I Care a Lot is definitely that, but it's also just a damn good time, mixing uproarious pitch black humor with a compelling caper along with all of its naughtiness, and I just couldn't get enough of it. My number 3 is, in my opinion, the best of the genre of 2021 in what many called the year of the musical. And unfortunately, because of some controversy, I feel as if this movie got unfairly overlooked as the year went on, but despite some audiences' issues with its representation, I still found In the Heights to be one of the most stirring and uplifting films of the year. Director John M. Chu injects so much life, energy, and pizzazz into his film. Every scene is bursting off of the screen, and you just can't help but fall in love with it all. The incredible cast with the likes of Anthony Ramos, Corey Hawkins, Melissa Barrera, Leslie Grace, Daphne Rubin Vega, Gregory Diaz IV, and the scene-stealing Olga Merediz pour every ounce of themselves into their performances. Every musical and dance number is show-stopping and makes you want to stand up and move your feet, sing along, and cheer. To me, In the Heights is the definition of what the modern musical should be, bringing its audience together through thought-provoking storytelling and the universal power of song. My number 2 is a movie that you will not be able to shake, even if you tried, and that is Fran Kranz's directorial debut, Mass. I saw this all the way back in January as a last-minute addition to my Sundance lineup, and I was completely floored, not forgetting about my experience with it once throughout the whole entire year. It is such a shame that it was picked up by a studio that failed to understand the gravity of the film that they had, as they dumped it in a few theaters to let it disappear within the flurry of bigger but not better films. Mass is a movie that, forgive me for my pun, but it deserves to be seen by the masses. We unfortunately live in a time and country where school shootings are commonplace, and the effects of these heinous acts permeate throughout our society. And for first-time feature director Fran Kranz to have the cojones to sit these 4 character actors in a nondescript room for 100 minutes and let them hash this unthinkable situation out is pure cinema in its rawest form. Add to that, Ann Dowd, Reed Birney, Martha Plimpton, and Jason Isaacs give 4 of the best, most heartbreaking performances of the year, or any year for that matter. Mass is not an easy watch, but it is an experience that will forever change you. And finally, we have reached my number 1. Another criminally underseen movie that flew under the radar for reasons I cannot understand, but it is a movie unlike any other, and its sheer existence reminds me of why I love cinema so much. And that film is Edson Oda's 9 Days. While this picture is easily explained as a live-action version of Pixar's Soul, it is so much more than that. We follow a reclusive man who lives out in the desert, who must conduct interviews with multiple people, who we find out are human representations of souls. These souls are vying for their chance to be chosen by this man to actually get to live a life. This certainly could have gone wrong in so many ways, but Oda shows such restraint in his storytelling and creates an ethereal fantasy filled with heartfelt performances that culminates in an experience that is hard to put into words, but what I call life-affirming. No other movie in 2021 made me think about the world and life in such new and exciting ways. 9 Days is overwhelmingly sad at times, but it is also so full of hope. And it is a hope that audiences so desperately needed in such a tumultuous year. If you have not seen 9 Days, please do yourself a favor and experience it for yourself. Thank you so much for watching Lost in the Reel. Please make sure to share your thoughts and your own top 10s in the comment section down below. And I just want to thank all of you for being a part of this journey over the last year, and I hope you continue getting lost with me in 2022. Until next time, my friends, take care.